Alright, I know I've done this too with the last few, but just like with Mario vs. Sonic and Undertale vs. Deltarune, it's obviously Crash Bandicoot, because here's the thing. People associate the entire PlayStation band with Crash Bandicoot, despite Sony no longer owning him. Pokemon and Yokai Watch are two popular series, well, popular in two different ways. They're all about taming monsters. Now, Pokemon is the biggest gaming juggernaut worldwide. Well, actually, Mario is the biggest gaming juggernaut, but Pokemon is the biggest media juggernaut worldwide. Pokemon is the highest selling and most popular media franchise in all of existence. And it's been that way. Well, I don't know how long it's been as highest grossing media franchise, but it has been hugely popular and has taken the world by storm ever since the late 90s when it debuted. Yokai Watch, on the other hand, it was insanely popular in Japan, just like Pokemon was worldwide. However, Yokai Watch was very niche in North America and Europe and in the West, unfortunately. Yokai Watch was insanely popular in Japan, but very niche in the West. But regardless, both of these are really a great series about taming monsters and in different ways. And people compare these series a lot, but they're actually not that alike. And no, Yokai Watch is not a Pokemon ripoff, okay? It's not. And you'll see what I mean. The gameplay is actually very different. You'll see what I mean in this video. But anyway, it's time to take a look at these two big franchises. Well, they're popular in different ways, and see which one is truly the winner of our finale to the Gaming Arena Season 1. Alright, so here we have gameplay, story, characters, music, track record, impact, and anime. Oh, so for the anime one, I'm not gonna show any footage from the animes because I don't want to get copyright claims. Because it happened with Gamer27's Pokemon vs. Yokai Watch Series War video that he made in 2020. He got a copyright claim from ShowPro, so I'm not gonna risk showing any footage. I'm just gonna show images, and that's it. We're gonna look at the gameplay, the story, the characters, the track record, and the impact. Without further ado, let's go! Round 1, gameplay. Now, Pokemon follows a very simple gameplay formula. You walk around routes and towns. You fight trainers along the way. You choose between 3 starters at the beginning that's usually given from the professor. There's a professor that's there in each region. And there's now 9 different Pokemon regions, technically 10 because Hisui is present-day Sinnoh, but that's a different story. But there's now Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Unova, Kalos, Alola, Galar, and the newest one, Paldea. So yeah, and these games follow a very simple gameplay where you choose between 3 Pokemon, you catch some Pokeballs, you walk around towns and cities, you fight trainers along the way. There's always a rival who's like your best friend in the game, and is also going against you to become the champion alongside you, and you fight 8 gym leaders in each game. And you can complete the Pokedex for 100%, or usually a post game. After you get 8 gym badges, you go across Victory Road and get the Pokemon League. Though there are some exceptions, and Gen 7 actually didn't have gym leaders; it had Island Trials instead. And Pokemon Sword and Shield didn't have the Pokemon League; it had the Champion Cup. And I don't think Gen 7 onwards has Victory Road, but yeah. Yeah, these games follow very... And the biggest part of these games is also the combat. These games are obviously RPGs, and they involve combat where you choose between 4 attacks, and different ones are effective, not very effective, no effect, super effective. There's 18 different Pokemon types, and stuff like that. Now, the newest game in the series, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, took the series in a new formula. This time, it's now open world, and you can take on anything in any order. It took the series after a long time. That's not the only time Pokemon has done something unique like this. Like I said, Sun and Moon had island trials instead of gym leaders. But Scarlet and Violet took the series in a big new formula by going fully open world. You can fully explore Paldea and ride on Koraidon or Miraidon, and you have these Path of Legends quests where you take on these big Pokemon, these giant Pokemon that are kind of like super bosses in other RPGs. And there's also the Team Star Quests. Oh yeah, these games also have villain teams. There's Team Rocket, Team Magma, Team Aqua, Team Galactic, Team Plasma, Team Flare, Team Skull, Team Yell, and Team Star, and all the Pokemon games. These games have villain teams too that play a big part in the story that we'll get to in a minute. So yeah. And obviously the biggest part of Scarlet and Violet is going to different towns doing the gym leaders and stuff, as usual. But yeah, these games, as you can tell, follow a very... these games follow a very simple gameplay. The Legends took it in a very different direction, where instead of the usual stuff instead of the stuff I've been talking about, but what Legends Arceus did is... This time around, they changed gameplay formula as a one-time thing. You see, this game is a prequel to Diamond and Pearl, which also got remade on the Switch. And these games are instead of you becoming the very best like no one ever was, you're now filling up the Pokedex and establishing the Pokedex by catching Pokemon in Hisui region, which like I said is present-day Sinnoh. And you're filling up the Pokedex. Around the time before Pokemons were connected to humans. This is set in an ancient time in the Pokemon timeline. Now, as I said, people compare Yokai Watch to Pokemon, and the people think that Yokai Watch is a Pokemon ripoff. Now these games may look similar, but they're actually not. These games are actually nothing like Pokemon. Actually, you see, they follow very different objectives. Pokemon is about you going around towns and fighting gym leaders, becoming the very best like no one ever was. Yokai Watch is not like that. You see, these games are very different. Instead of if you catch Pokemon with Pokeballs, you're playing as a character named. You're playing as this kid who's named Nate Adams, or the girl Katie Forrester, or Yokai Watch 3's case, Haley and Thomas, and you have a watch called the Yokai Watch, where you see these creatures that are called yokai. Now, yokai is actually a big part of Japanese mythology. These games are actually based on creatures from Japanese mythology. So yeah, and their main mascot this time is Jibanyan, which is these games' counterpart to Pikachu. Now how these games play out is you just go around a town and it completes mission quests there. They're all about investigating yokai and stuff. You fight wicked yokai and stuff, and you also befriend yokai differently. As they will ask you in battle, it's like they want to befriend you, and the gameplay is also very different. Yeah, the battles in these games are actually very different. You see, Pokemon has turn-based combat that are fully turn-based, where you choose between 4 different moves. With this, it's still turn-based, but has action mixed in with it. Now in the 3DS trilogy, you have a wheel where you can switch your yokai, and you have these souls in it, which are like powerful moves, and the yokai attack automatically at the yokai. Now Yokai Watch 4, which is Japan only so far, this time around, they integrated humans into battles. Yeah, you actually fight with Nate and Katie. Nate or Katie, which are their canon names. You can name anything you want, just like in Pokemon, how the creators have canon names, you can name anything you want. And this time, you actually fight with the human protagonists, using Nate or Katie, which is really cool. The yokai still fight alongside you, and Yokai Watch 4 has more traditional action RPG combat. Kind of something like the E series or the Tales series or something like that. So, or Xenoblade, or many action RPGs. Though the least Xenoblade was a kind of different action combat because the characters attacked automatically. But we'll get the Xenoblade at the beginning of Season 2. So yeah. And the point here goes to Yokai Watch. Pokemon has really good gameplay, however, it's very basic and it feels the same with all except for one mainline game. So yeah, Pokemon follows a nice, simple, engaging formula of if you're going around town and fighting gym leaders and stuff like that and catching Pokemon. But Yokai Watch is more unique, especially with 4's battle system and exploring the yokai world was more fun than exploring the Pokemon world, and the battle system is better and more unique, and the quests are more unique too. About investigating yokai and fighting giant wicked yokai and stuff like that. Yeah, the point here definitely goes to Yokai Watch for sure in this case, because Pokemon is just very basic, while Yokai Watch is very unique. Also, by the way, I've actually only played the first two Yokai Watch games so far. I haven't played 3 yet. I haven't played 4 yet either. The 4 is currently Japan only, but I might import it. It's because I have a Japanese account on my Switch, so I might import it. But I will play 3 sometime this year. I played the first 2, and I'm basing this video on my experiences with those. Round 2, Story. Alright, so as for the Pokemon games, well, they don't really have a huge story. Most of them are just about you, being a kid who's a new Pokemon trainer, fighting the gym leaders, facing a rival, taking down these villain teams. Now there is more plot stuff that goes on with them, and that makes it more interesting. But that's mostly that's other than that, and the games don't have a big plot. They're about you becoming the greatest trainer and the very best that one ever was. And the thing is that these games don't really have a huge plot, really. Now there are some exceptions. The Black and White games have both 1 and 2. They have a pretty good focus on story. So does Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. And Legends Arceus did too. Legends Arceus was different because that's a different kind of Pokemon game, since it was about you. Instead of the usual formula, you were growing the Pokedex during the ancient times of Pokemon. Now, Yokai Watch, on the other hand, is a completely different case. These games actually do have a heavy story, just like most JRPGs, and these games have really interesting ones too about the lore of the yokai and how Jibanyan was created, and how he was ran over by a car and became a spirit known as Jibanyan. His original name was Rudy. And they actually have really great plots involving the yokai and how they form and stuff. And you aren't just going around town and everything, discovering the yokai. You're actually discovering their lore and everything. And that's actually... These games actually focus on story, unlike Pokemon. Pokemon has a story, but it's very minimal, or not really a big story. This is the exact opposite. these are story-driven games, believe it or not. And these yokai are actually threatening, unlike the Pokemon. The yokai that you fight, well, mostly the wicked yokai, which are the bosses and everything, they're actually threatening, unlike the Pokemon. With the Pokemon, they're from nice trainers. Well, besides the evil teams, that's a different story. These games actually do have focus on story. Especially in each succeeding installment, you'll see more of a story focus in them. And once again, there's 4 mainline games, even though the 4th one is only in Japan. Yep, the point here goes once again to Yokai Watch. I think this is obvious because, like I said, Pokemon games don't really have heavy story, and most of it is just kind of generic story for the franchise's standards. But Yokai Watch is not. These games follow stories that actually have depth to them, and the games actually focus on story about how the Yokai Watch work, about the lore behind them, the wicked yokai, and how threatening they actually are, and everything. And how they're trying to destroy Springdale or something like that. Yeah, these games actually have really great stories. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like some of the best JRPG stories of all time. But it's definitely really great stories for one. So yeah. The ones that I've only played the first 2 so far. I've yet to play 3 and 4. The 4 is Japan only. Round 3! Characters! So the characters are the reason why I'm comparing these 2 things in the first place. I mean, the games are about catching monsters, but in completely different ways. Once again, Yokai Watch is not a Pokemon ripoff. Stop calling it that. But anyway, there's characters. These games are well. Obviously, there's 2 different kinds. There's the trainers. The trainers are fine. The heroes are fine, but aren't really anything special. I mean, they're good characters, but they're just nothing special, really. Well, there are some exceptions for sure. But Pokemon are really nice creatures too, and they have a nice little depth to them. And catching them is pretty fun and everything. And all of them are nice and unique. Well, there are some weirdly designed ones for sure out there. Out of the hundreds they have now. Keep in mind, they started off with 151, and then they created hundreds more after each succeeding generation. But yeah. I mean, they're Pokemon, what else do I need to say? I mean, they're Pokemon. You catch them, you fight with them. However, they don't really speak to you like a human does. They just make normal Pokemon noises. However, now as for the yokai, they actually do talk like humans, especially in the anime. I think in 4 as well, but once again, I haven't played 4 and I can't understand Japanese. So, I wouldn't even know what they're saying. But whatever. But the anime, they do talk like humans. And they interact like them too. But in different form. Now obviously the yokai are based on Japanese folklore and are inspired by the yokai monsters of Japanese folklore. So yeah, that's what it's based on. That's why these games are so hugely popular in Japan, but are super niche in the West. Now, so the human characters, I'd say they're a lot better than the humans in Pokemon, because the humans in Pokemon, once again, they're good characters, but most of them are just something special. But the humans in Yokai Watch are they actually are something special. They're really cool. They're great characters, and they actually have great personality to them. And yeah, and they contribute to the story really well too. And they work like characters in most JRPGs. So yeah. So with this, I think Yokai Watch shines for having both better humans and creatures. So yeah. The point here goes to Yokai Watch, with the point with the score so far being 0-3. I mean, the characters in Pokemon are still good, but the Yokai Watch characters, both the humans and the creatures, are just more interesting. They have more personality to them for both of them, and the yokai actually speak like normal humans. And interact differently from the Pokemon, so yeah. And they're both very different in a way, because once again, Yokai Watch is not a Pokemon ripoff, stop calling it that. But regardless, yeah. The humans, both the humans and the creatures went here no contest. The score is 0-3. Sadly, Pokemon has not gotten any points, but let's see. Round 4, music. Now the point here has to go to both. I mean, I'll know which one I prefer music wise. I mean, all the Pokemon games, and all the Yokai Watch games have a banger OSTs. I can't decide which one I like the best. And we got a lot of banger OSTs. And Sword and Shield's OST even has music from Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale and Deltarune, which also have brilliant OSTs and are also banger games that you should play, by the way. And I also made a Gaming Arena video comparing Undertale and Deltarune. But I'll probably make that during Season 2 or 3. After Deltarune's complete, I will probably remake Undertale versus Deltarune. Since Deltarune only has 2 chapters out so far. But regardless, I think both Pokemon and Yokai Watch have banger OSTs that both get the point here. Alright, next round. Round 5, Track Record. Alright, so just like we've done in our other Gaming Arena videos, here are the Pokemon Metacritic scores. Now, some of the versions have slightly higher or lower Metacritic score, but I decided to use the highest score for each of the mainline Pokemon games. Obviously, some of them don't have Metacritic scores, like Gen 1 and 2, but Gen 3 onwards all do. We got an average of 82.13. Now, Yokai Watch, on the other hand, well, despite Pokemon's track record in recent years, and despite people saying that the Yokai Watch series is better than the recent Pokemon games, and I actually agree. I think the Yokai Watch games are actually better than most, if not every Pokemon game. However, they got it to lower than most Pokemon games, but I guess it makes sense because not as many have played them, and here's the thing. Yokai Watch is everything. Pokemon's popular worldwide. Yokai Watch is only popular in Japan. And that's also why you don't see a Metacritic score for Yokai Watch 4, because Yokai Watch 4 is once again only in Japan. But anyway, yeah, we got an average of 76.13. So unfortunately, despite the fact that I think Yokai Watch is, well, we'll talk about that at the end of the video, so which one's better. Despite recent Pokemon games getting some hate from fans, and them saying the Yokai Watch games are way better by a lot of the fans, Pokemon has a higher Metacritic score of most of the games in this case, so the winner here is Pokemon, which wins solely because the games have higher Metacritic scores than the Yokai Watch games. Well, Yokai Watch 4 is Japan only, and there's only 3 Yokai Watch games that are here localized. So out of the many Pokemon games that have Metacritic scores, that have high Metacritic scores, and the Yokai Watch games that have the three that have a positive Metacritic score, Pokemon wins here because it has a higher one, even though the newer Pokemon games, many consider to not really be that great. I mean, I defended them many times. I think they're actually pretty great. I'll probably make a defense video of them at some point. But for Yokai Watch, well, obviously they're gonna have lower Metacritic scores because these games are very niche outside of Japan. I mean, the games are hugely popular in Japan and very niche everywhere else. And that's still the reason why we haven't gotten Yokai Watch 4 localized. Yokai Watch 3 only sold like 4,000 copies in the West, I think. Well, actually North America. I think it sold a good 30,000 in Europe. But the problem with releasing in Europe is that it released in Europe the same day as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in North America in February of 2019, and by early 2019, 3DS was obsolete. No one cared about the 3DS anymore. The last 3DS game that really got big attention was Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon in November of 2017. By that, the 3DS was just kind of done. People were just ready for the Switch and everything. Yokai Watch 2 didn't sell that great either. Well, the first Yokai Watch sold okay in the West, but Yokai Watch 2 bombed, and 3 did way worse. And the game only had a few people working on the localization. But hopefully Yokai Watch 4 can get localized. I heard Level 5 closed down their Western division, but they might be bringing it back, I think. Or maybe they can hire a company like XC or NIS America to localize it or something. Or hire Bandai Namco because they work with them for Ni no Kuni, so yeah. So Level 5 could partner with them. Round 6. Impact. Okay, wait, do I even need to explain this one? I mean, it's Pokemon vs. Yokai Watch. One is insanely popular worldwide, and the other is only insanely popular in Japan, and hasn't been as popular in the recent years. Yokai Watch didn't even get a chance outside Japan. The anime and the game, the original anime and game, released in the West in 2015, in late 2015, and never really gained that much traction. I mean, the game sold alright, but the sequels didn't sold terribly. And the show didn't really gather that much attention, even on Disney XD, which is where Pokemon also was airing back then. I think it was still on Cartoon Network, I'm not sure, but I know they moved it from Cartoon Network to Disney XD for the anime. We'll get to the anime in a minute. But yeah, the thing with Pokemon is that Pokemon has been a worldwide icon, and not just gaming, but in other media too. And there's not only been video games, there's also been cards, anime, movies, including a live-action one with Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. How crazy is that? Deadpool as Pikachu. But that movie was actually pretty great. Detective Pikachu was surprisingly amazing. I remember seeing it in theaters the day it came out, and it was surprisingly great. But anyway, and there's also manga, there's toys. I mean, Pokemon is everything. I mean, it's Pokemon. Yokai Watch, it has a lot of the same media that Pokemon does too, the same media, but it just didn't get a chance in America, sadly, which is sad. I mean, I love both series, but I love Yokai Watch even more. It's better, it's more unique, has better story, characters, and everything. I mean, it's just sad that Pokemon. It's just sad that Yokai Watch never got popular in North America or in the West. I wish it did. I mean, we need Yokai Watch 4 already, but even that, I think was like the lowest selling in the series. I think, and we haven't even gotten anything about Yokai Watch 5, and I don't think it's been as popular in the last 2 years. There was a remaster of Yokai Watch 1 on the Switch. I don't think it's still that great, I might be wrong. There's also a spin-off for Yokai Watch Academy Y. Here's the thing, they also expanded Yokai Watch. Here's the thing, Level 5 expanded Yokai Watch to being not only on Nintendo, but also PlayStation. Yokai Watch 4 as a PS4 version in Japan, and so does the spin-off Yokai Watch Academy Y, is why I think it's called Yokai Gym Academy Y, whatever it's called. Had a Switch version that released in 2020, and then later on a PS4 version. But the PS4 versions didn't really sell well. But to be fair, Nintendo sells way better than PlayStation in Japan because Japan prefers handheld games. A lot of people because handheld games are more popular in Japan. So obviously a Switch game is going to outsell a PS4 game and stuff. So yeah, everything. Overall, Yokai Watch sadly didn't get a chance in America with poor marketing and it's just not being that known and everything. Yokai Watch 3 getting localized too late, and Yokai Watch has fallen off in popularity in the last few years in Japan, but it was hugely popular in the 2010s. So yeah, but Pokemon wins obviously because it's Pokemon. Round 7, or shall I say, final round, anime. So overall, I think both of these have a really great anime series. I can't show you any footage or anything because it costs copyright claim to do that. Well, I don't know I wouldn't say cost, but yeah, I would get copyright claim, so I'm not gonna show you any footage because ShowPro would catch me, which would happen to Gamer27. He did a Pokemon vs. Yokai Watch in 2020, and then he got a copyright claim from ShowPro for showing footage. So So I can only show you an image here. But overall, I think I think both of these have really great anime series. Now, I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a good amount of them. Heck, I'd even say the original Pokemon anime is better than all the Pokemon games and anything Pokemon related. I think Indigo League is like the best piece of Pokemon media. The adventures of Ash Ketchum and his friends are really compelling. They have some nice plots, and they're more interesting than the game's plot. The games don't really have a big plot, but in the show they actually do. And the Pokemon I think they're all presented better in the anime and everything. So yeah, I have to give to that. And as for Yokai Watch, I've only seen the first season because Netflix doesn't have anything past the first season, sadly. But before I watched it was really great and had some nice writing to it and everything. I'd say it was just as great as, well, actually, I'd say Indigo League is better, but it's better than a lot of the other Pokemon animes. But in this case, I think. But they're both really, but because both are really amazing, I have to give the point here to both. Yep, the winner here goes to Yokai Watch. Yes, despite it being way less popular than Pokemon, with its popularity mostly only being in one country while Pokemon is worldwide, Yokai Watch just has better presentation and everything, better plots and everything. And no, it is not a Pokemon ripoff. Stop calling it that. Okay, I've said that several times in this video already. It's not a Pokemon ripoff because they play completely different. It's like calling Megamon a Despicable Me ripoff. They both involve a supervillain becoming a hero thing, but they tell completely different kinds of plots. They're presented in different ways, and this is basically that. Pokemon and Yokai are different, so yeah, it's not a ripoff. So yeah, and Yokai Watch is better than Pokemon anyway, and it wins in this case. Oh, by the way, guys, this is also the end of the Gaming Arena Season 1. Season 2 will begin later this year with it'll run for 6 episodes, maybe 7, just like Season 1, starting with the first episode will be a 3-way battle between the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy, deciding which one truly stands out. There also will be one for Season 2 will also be the beginning of 3-way battles too, with Persona 3 Portable versus Persona 4 Golden versus Persona 5 Royal. So you'll see more of those throughout this video. I mean, throughout Season 2. And Season 3 is also planned as well at some point, but that's a long time away. And I also have plans for many more of these kind of videos too. There's going to be I have a spin-off series planned as well. Anyway, that is officially the end of the Gaming Arena Season 1. We will see you guys next time. Agent S out.